Welcome back to Crash Course Tell Us. Let's close your eyes quickly. I am going to tell you a relaxing story, so if you like my video, please like and subscribe. Let's start.
Title: Screams of the Dark Hour. 1. The Shadow in the Bedroom. Ali arrived at his newly purchased mansion late at night. The mansion was located in a desolate area outside the city. During the day, the place seemed serene, but at night, the atmosphere shifted drastically. He unpacked his belongings, placed them in the bedroom, and prepared to sleep. As he turned off the lights, he felt as if someone was standing in the corner of the room. Alarmed, he turned the lights back on, only to find nothing. Maybe it's just exhaustion, he thought, and lay down to sleep. Hour 2. Footsteps in the hallway. At around 2 a.m., Ali woke up abruptly. He could hear faint footsteps echoing from the downstairs hallway. His heart pounded as fear crept in, but he mustered the courage to investigate. As he descended the creaky wooden staircase, the sound of footsteps stopped abruptly. He switched on the hallway light but saw nothing unusual. "Must be my imagination," he whispered to himself, and returned to his bed, though sleep was now distant. Hour 3. The whispering voice. Just as Ali began to drift off again, a faint whisper echoed in his ear. The voice was chilling, speaking words he couldn't understand. Startled, he sat upright and scanned the room. Shadows danced on the walls as the wind outside howled through the broken window panes. Gripping a flashlight, Ali searched every corner of the room but found nothing. Yet the whispers continued, now coming from the direction of the closet. With trembling hands, he opened the closet door, only to find a mirror inside. His reflection stared back at him, but then it blinked. Hour 4. The entity. Revealed terrified, Ali backed away from the mirror. Suddenly the lights flickered and the temperature dropped sharply. He heard a guttural growl and a shadowy figure emerged from the mirror, its eyes glowing like embers. The figure spoke in a deep, otherworldly voice. "You shouldn't have come here." Frozen in fear, Ali couldn't move as the entity inched closer. It raised a skeletal hand, pointing at him, and the room was consumed by darkness. Hour 5. The Endless Nightmare. Ali woke up in a cold sweat, his heart racing. It was just a nightmare, he muttered, trying to convince himself. But when he looked around, he realized he was no longer in his bedroom. He was in a dark, endless hallway lined with mirrors. In each mirror, he saw distorted versions of himself, some crying, others screaming, and one laughing maniacally. The whispers returned, louder and more sinister this time, as the hallway stretched infinitely. Ali ran, desperate to escape, but no matter how far he went, the mirrors and whispers followed. Finally, he collapsed to his knees, his mind unraveling. From behind, the entity's voice echoed once more. "This is your home now," and Ali's screams became one with the dark. Part 2. The Hallway of Despair. Ali's mind reeled as he knelt on the cold, dark floor of the endless hallway. The mirrors surrounding him distorted his reflection further with each passing second, twisting his face into grotesque shapes, some grinning, others crying blood. He clenched his fists, trying to focus, but the whispers in his ears grew louder, turning into guttural chants. As Ali pushed himself to his feet, he noticed a faint red glow at the far end of the hallway. It seemed like the only escape. Gathering all his courage, he began to walk towards it, but each step felt heavier, as if invisible hands were trying to pull him back. Hour 6. The Red Door. After what felt like an eternity, Ali reached the source of the glow, a large, ominous red door with strange symbols carved into its surface. A low humming sound emanated from it, vibrating through his chest. Despite every instinct screaming at him to turn back, Ali placed his hand. Part 3. The Red Door's Secret. Ali hesitated, his hand hovering over the door's cold surface. The strange symbols seemed to pulse faintly, as if alive. A chilling whisper echoed from the other side. "Enter, if you dare." Against his better judgment, Ali pushed the door open. On the other side was a vast, dimly lit chamber. The walls were made of black stone dripping with something thick and red. The room's center was dominated by a massive circular pit from which an otherworldly red light shone. As Ali stepped closer, he saw the pit was filled with countless writhing hands, clawing and reaching upwards as if begging for escape. A deep voice boomed from the shadows, shaking the ground beneath his feet. "You came uninvited, Ali. Now you must stay forever." Hour 7. The Keeper of Souls. From the pit emerged a towering figure cloaked in darkness. Its face was hidden, but its glowing red eyes pierced Ali's soul. It carried a staff made of twisted bones, and its presence alone made the air thick with despair. Ali tried to run, but Part 4. Trapped by the Keeper. Ali's feet felt like they were sinking into the stone floor, as if the very ground was alive and determined to hold him in place. The towering figure, now fully emerged, stood at least 10 feet tall. Its skeletal hand reached out toward Ali, and with a voice that seemed to echo in every direction, it growled, "You disturbed the balance. Now you are mine." Ali screamed, struggling to move, but his body was paralyzed. The Keeper of Souls raised its staff, and the pit's glow intensified. A wave of agony surged through Ali's body, pulling him toward the edge of the pit. He tried to resist, but invisible forces dragged him closer to Part 5, the descent into the pit. Ali's screams echoed in the vast chamber as he was dragged toward the edge of the pit. The writhing hands below seemed to sense his fear, their desperate movements becoming more frantic. The Keeper of Souls loomed over him, its hollow voice resonating. "This is where the lost reside. Their mistakes eternal. Now you join them." With one final pull, Ali was yanked off his feet and hurled into the pit. The air around him grew thick and suffocating as the hands below latched onto his body, pulling him deeper into the crimson abyss. He fought with every ounce of strength he had, but the hands were unrelenting, their icy grip chilling his very soul. Hour 8. The Voices of the Damned. As Ali descended, he began hearing voices, agonized cries, desperate pleas, and eerie laughter. The pit was alive with the echoes of countless souls trapped for eternity. Among the cacophony, Ali thought he heard a familiar voice, his mother's. "Ali, why didn't you listen?" The voice wept. Shocked, he called out, "Ami, is that you?" But the voice faded, replaced by sinister laughter. "Your loved ones can't save you," the Keeper's voice mocked, now seemingly everywhere. Suddenly, Ali landed on a hard, uneven surface. He was surrounded by shadowy figures, other souls, their faces twisted in agony. They moved like puppets, their hollow eyes staring at him. One of them approached, its face unrecognizable, but its voice chillingly clear. "Escape is impossible." Hour 9. The false escape desperation clawed at Ali's mind as he stumbled through the pit, searching for a way out. In the distance, he saw a faint glimmer of light, a possible exit. Summoning all his strength, he ran toward it, the shadowy figures grabbing at him but unable to hold him back completely. The light grew brighter, and Ali burst through into what appeared to be his bedroom. He gasped for air, relief flooding his senses. "It was just a dream," he whispered, collapsing onto the bed. But as he looked around, he noticed something was wrong. The mirror in his room was cracked, and through it he saw his reflection, distorted, grinning wickedly. Behind him, the Keeper of Souls appeared, whispering in his ear, "You can never escape." Hour 10. The Eternal Loop. Ali awoke again, this time in the dark hallway lined with mirrors. He was back where it all began. The same distorted reflections stared back at him, their faces more grotesque than before. Panic set in as he realized he was trapped in a loop, forced to relive the nightmare over and over. No matter how many times he ran, fought, or screamed, the hallway, the red door, and the pit awaited him. The Keeper's voice echoed endlessly in his mind. "You are one of us now, Ali. Welcome to eternity." And so Ali's soul joined the countless others, his screams becoming part of the pit's eternal torment.
Part 6. A Glimmer of Hope. Ali wandered endlessly in the dark hallway, his sanity unraveling with each cycle. Each time he awoke, the horrors grew worse. The mirrors shattered, revealing twisted versions of himself that reached out, trying to pull him in. The red door no longer stayed shut. It opened on its own, beckoning him toward the pit. But then, during one of these endless loops, Ali noticed something different. A faint blue light glowing at the far end of the hallway. Unlike the oppressive red glow of the pit, this light felt calm, almost comforting. Summoning what little courage he had left, Ali moved toward it, ignoring the whispers and the mocking laughter that tried to stop him. Hour 11. The Guardian. As Ali approached the blue light, he found himself in a small chamber unlike anything he had seen before. It was peaceful, with walls shimmering like starlight. In the center stood a figure cloaked in white, radiating a soothing energy. "You should not be here," the figure said, its voice soft yet commanding. "But there is still a chance to break free." Ali fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Please help me. I didn't mean to disturb this place. I just wanted a new start." The figure extended its hand, a small blue flame glowing in its palm. "Take this. It will guide you, but beware. The Keeper will do everything to stop you. You must be stronger than your fear." Hour 12. The final confrontation. With the blue flame in his hand, Ali felt a surge of hope. The hallway began to crumble behind him as he ran, the mirrors shattering and the voices fading. He reached the red door once again, but this time, the Keeper of Souls awaited him, its form larger and more menacing than ever. "You cannot escape, mortal," the Keeper roared, slamming its staff into the ground. The pit erupted with flames, and shadowy tendrils shot toward Ali, trying to snuff out the blue flame. Ali held the flame tightly, focusing on the calm energy it provided. "You don't control me," he shouted, his voice stronger than he expected. The flame grew brighter, pushing back the shadows. The Keeper lunged at him, but Ali thrust the flame forward. The blue light engulfed the room, blinding both him and the Keeper. A deafening scream echoed as the Keeper dissolved into darkness, its power shattered. The escape. When the light faded, Ali found himself back in his bedroom. This time, the air was different, lighter, freer. The cracked mirror was gone, replaced by a plain one, reflecting only his true self. Exhausted, Ali sank onto his bed, unsure if it was all a dream or if he had truly escaped a living nightmare. But one thing was certain: he would never return to that mansion again. As dawn broke, Ali packed his belongings and left the house for good, vowing to never let curiosity lead him into darkness again. Outside, a faint blue glow lingered in the morning light, a reminder of the second chance he had been given. Epilogue. The curse lives on. Ali drove away from the mansion, his heart still racing. As the morning sun rose higher, he felt a strange sense of peace, but questions haunted him. What was the mansion? Why was he chosen? And who was the guardian? Months passed, and Ali tried to return to a normal life, but nightmares still plagued him. He avoided all thoughts of the mansion, refusing to speak of it to anyone. Yet one winter evening, he received an anonymous letter at his new home. The envelope was old and tattered, with no return address. Trembling, Ali opened it and read the single line written in crimson ink. The keeper always returns. The new occupant. Meanwhile, far from Ali's new home, a young couple stood outside the same mansion he had fled from. The real estate agent smiled warmly as he handed them the keys. "It's a beautiful place," the agent said. "Quiet, peaceful, perfect for starting a family." The couple looked at each other and nodded, unaware of the faint red glow emanating from the cracks in the front door as they stepped inside. The cycle had begun again.
The final chapter, breaking the cycle. Ali couldn't shake the ominous message. Sleepless nights returned, and shadows seemed to linger at the edge of his vision. Desperate for answers, he decided to face his fear one last time. Armed with the faint memory of the blue flame, he drove back to the mansion. As he arrived, the air was thick with dread. The young couple's car was parked outside, but the house was eerily silent. Ali stepped through the door, his footsteps echoing in the emptiness. Confronting the keeper again inside, the mansion felt alive. The walls pulsed, and a low hum reverberated through the air. Ali called out for the couple but heard only faint whispers, growing louder with each step. Reaching the main hall, he found them standing in a trance near the red door. Their eyes glowed faintly red, their bodies frozen. Before Ali could move, the keeper's voice boomed, "You dare return? You belong to me, as do they." The red door burst open, and the keeper emerged, its form now even more monstrous. This time, however, Ali was prepared. He closed his eyes, focusing on the memory of the blue flame. A warmth began to grow in his chest, and suddenly, a flicker of blue light appeared in his hand. The final battle. The keeper roared and lunged, but Ali stood firm. He thrust the blue flame forward, and the room was flooded with its radiant light. The keeper screamed as the light burned through its shadowy form, weakening it. "You are nothing but fear," Ali shouted, "and fear cannot control me anymore." With a final surge, the blue flame exploded, consuming the keeper and the red door. The mansion trembled as its dark energy dissolved. The couple collapsed to the floor, waking from their trance. The end of the curse. As the light faded, the mansion was transformed. The walls, once oppressive, were now crumbling into dust. The couple thanked Ali, confused but grateful to be alive. Together, they exited the house, watching as it collapsed into rubble behind them. For the first time, Ali felt truly free. The curse of the mansion was broken, and the keeper of souls was no more. As he turned to leave, he noticed a faint blue light hovering in the air, like a guardian watching over him. With a deep breath, Ali walked away, leaving the horrors of the past behind forever. The cycle had ended.
The Forgotten Whisper of the Night. There was a small village named Silent Hollow, hidden deep within a dense, ancient forest. By day, the villagers went about their lives as usual, but when night fell, an eerie stillness would envelop the village. Doors were locked, lamps extinguished, and no one dared to venture outside after sunset. Legend spoke of a mysterious presence that roamed the forest at night. No one had seen it, yet whispers of its steps and faint, haunting murmurs could often be heard. Some claimed it was a lost soul, others believed it was something far more sinister. Rias' curiosity. Rias, a young outsider, had recently moved to the village. Unlike the others, he didn't believe in ghostly tales or ancient curses. Bold and curious, he often mocked the villagers for their fear of the unknown. One night, with the moon casting a silvery glow over the forest, Rias made up his mind. He would uncover the truth behind the whispers and prove to everyone that the stories were mere superstitions. Armed with a lantern and a small blade for safety, he stepped into the dark forest. The dense trees loomed over him like silent sentinels, their branches casting twisted shadows on the ground. As he ventured deeper, an unnatural silence enveloped him. No chirping crickets, no rustling leaves, only his heartbeat echoed in his ears. The first encounter. As Rias moved forward, he noticed strange carvings on the tree symbols he couldn't understand. Glowing faintly in the dark, a cold wind brushed past him, sending shivers down his spine. Suddenly, he heard a faint whisper, like someone calling his name. Rias. He frowned, his lantern trembling in his hand. The whisper came again, this time closer, but when he turned around, there was no one there. Gathering his courage, he pressed on, determined to find the source of the sound. Deep in the heart of the forest, he stumbled upon an old, abandoned cabin. Its windows were shattered, and the door hung ajar, creaking softly with the wind. Rias hesitated, but eventually stepped inside. The air was thick with a strange, metallic smell. In the center of the room, he found a dusty book lying open on a table. The pages were filled with the same glowing symbols he had seen on the trees. The truth revealed. As he reached out to touch the book, the whispers grew louder, swirling around him like a storm. The symbols on the pages began to shift and writhe, forming words in a language he could finally understand. The guardian of the forest watches all. Trespassers pay the price. Before Rias could react, the shadows in the room began to move, coalescing into a tall, ghastly figure. Its eyes glowed a deep, crimson red, and its elongated limbs seemed to stretch endlessly. "You dare disturb my domain?" the figure hissed, its voice echoing in Rias' mind. Terrified, Rias stumbled backward, dropping his lantern. The flame extinguished, plunging the room into complete darkness. In that moment, he realized the truth stories weren't just tales. The presence was real, and it was angry. The endless night. The next morning, the villagers found Rias' lantern at the edge of the forest. Its glass cracked and blood smeared on its handle. Rias was never seen again, but from that day forward, the whispers in the forest grew louder, and the villagers swore they could hear someone calling for help every night. The legend of Silent Hollow lived on, and so did the guardian of the forest, watching, waiting for its next victim. Would you dare enter the forest at night? The forest's secret. After Rias' disappearance, fear gripped the village tighter than ever. people no longer even dared to open their windows at night. However, Ria's sister, Zainab, who arrived in the village a few days later, refused to believe that her brother could simply vanish without a trace. Zainab was brave and determined. Far from the kind to sit idly by, she made up her mind to uncover the truth, no matter the danger. Preparing for the journey, Zainab sought help from an elderly villager named Uncle Idris, the only person who seemed to know anything about the forest. Idris told her that the forest had once been a sacred place, protected by an ancient guardian. Over time, the villagers had forgotten their rituals of respect, and the guardian turned vengeful. The symbols you'll see carved on the trees are warnings. Idris explained, no one who crosses into the heart of the forest ever returns. Zainab, however, was undeterred. Equipped with a lantern, a journal, and her brother's small dagger, she prepared to face the forest and the darkness it concealed. Into the heart of darkness, on a moonless night, Zainab entered the forest. The silence was suffocating, and the deeper she went, the heavier the air felt. The same glowing symbols confronting the mysterious cabin. Zainab pushed the creaky door open, its groan echoing in the eerie silence. Inside, the cabin fell frozen in time. Dust covered every surface, and an overturned chair lay forgotten in the corner. In the center of the room stood a table, and on it was the same book Riaz must have seen, lying open as though waiting for her. Cautiously, Zainab stepped closer, her heart pounding in her chest. As her hand reached toward the book, its pages began to turn on their own, and glowing symbols appeared on the walls, the same ones she had seen carved into the trees outside. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind swept through the cabin, and the light from her lantern dimmed. Zainab frowned as she felt a presence behind her. Slowly, she turned around, and her breath caught in her throat. The terrifying encounter. In the far corner of the cabin, a shadowy figure materialized. It was humanoid in shape but unnaturally tall, its elongated limbs stretching grotesquely. Its eyes glowed a menacing, fiery red, piercing through the darkness. The figure moved slowly toward Zainab, each step resonating like a trumpet in her ears. Its voice, a chilling whisper, echoed through the room. "You shouldn't have come here. It is." His tone a mix of anger and sorrow. Zainab clutched the dagger tightly, her instinct screaming at her to run, but her feet felt glued to the floor. Summoning all her courage, she demanded, "What have you done to my brother?" The figure stopped, tilting its head as if in thought, and, with an icy laugh, it replied, "Your brother. He challenged the forest. Now, he is part of it." A choice in the shadows. Zainab's mind raced. She realized that whatever this entity was, it held immense power, but the symbols in the book and on the walls seemed connected to it. Desperate to find a way to save Riaz or at least uncover the truth, she reached for the book. As soon as her fingers touched its surface, a surge of energy coursed through her. The room began to shift and warp, and visions of Riaz flashed before her eyes, running through the forest, calling for help, and then being swallowed by the shadows. The figure's voice boomed, "You have a choice. Leave now, or join him forever." Zainab's grip tightened on the dagger as she prepared to make her decision. A leap of faith. Zainab steadied herself, her mind racing. The figure's ominous words echoed in her ears. "Leave now, or join him forever." She knew leaving would mean abandoning her brother, something her heart refused to accept, but staying meant facing an unknown and terrifying fate. She glanced at the glowing book in her hand, its symbols pulsating with an almost hypnotic energy. The thought struck her, what if this book holds the key to defeating this creature or freeing Riaz? Summoning all her courage, she shouted at the figure, I'm not leaving without my brother. The shadow let out a low, guttural laugh that shook the walls of the cabin. Brave words. It hissed, but bravery alone won't save you. Unlocking the secret, with trembling hands, Zainab flipped through the glowing pages. The sacrifice. Zainab's hand shook as she read the ritual. It demanded something precious, a part of her, a say her most cherished memory or deepest bond. She clenched her jaw, realizing the enormity of the decision. If it meant saving Riaz, she was willing to pay the price. The shadowy figure loomed closer, its fiery eyes narrowing. You think you can defeat me with an ancient spell? It mocked. You are as foolish as your brother. Ignoring the creature's taunts, Zainab placed the book on the table and began the ritual. The words written in the book felt foreign on her tongue, but she spoke them with unwavering determination. The symbols on the walls flared brighter, casting an intense glow that illuminated the entire cabin. A memory lost. As the final words left her lips, the book's glow intensified, and Zainab felt a sharp pain in her chest. The ritual had begun to take its toll. Her mind was flooded with memories her childhood with Riaz, the laughter they shared, the promises they made. Suddenly, one memory began to fade. It was the day Riaz had gifted her a small pendant on her birthday, vowing always to protect her. Tears streamed down her face as the memory dissolved into nothingness, leaving a hollow ache in its place. The shadowy figure screeched in agony as the ritual's power bounded in place. The fiery eyes flickered, and the creature writhed, unable to move. Riaz's fate. As the cabin trembled, the shadow finally spoke, its voice tinged with desperation. You have bound me, but you cannot undo what has been done. Your brother's soul is part of the forest now. His beyond saving? Zainab refused to believe it. Show me, she demanded. The shadow let out a guttural growl, and the walls of the cabin dissolved, revealing the depths of the forest. In that distance, Zainab saw Riaz, or what was left of him. His figure was faint, his body intertwined with the glowing roots of the ancient trees. He seemed to be asleep, trapped in an eternal slumber. Zainab's heart broke. She called out to him, but he didn't respond. A final bargain. The shadow spoke again, weaker this time. Free me, and I will return him to you. Bind me here, and he remains forever lost. Zainab knew she couldn't trust the creature, but she also couldn't abandon Riaz. She looked at her brother's fading form, and then at the book glowing in her hands. The choice was hers to make. Trust the shadow's bargain or banish it forever and leave Riaz to his fate. With tears in her eyes, she prepared to make her final decision. The decision. Zainab's mind whirled with conflicting emotions. Could she trust the shadow? The very creature that had ensnared Riaz. What if it was lying, manipulating her grief? But leaving Riaz trapped in this eternal limbo felt unbearable. I'll free you, Zainab said finally, her voice trembling but resolute. If you swear to return my brother. The shadow let out a low, rasping laugh. Very well, but know this, every bargain comes with a price. Zainab hesitated. Gripping the glowing book tightly, the symbols began to shift, showing her the words to release the creature. She took a deep breath and began to chant, her voice steady despite her fear. The shadow unbound. As she finished the incantation, the cabin shook violently. The shadow began to grow, its form stretching and shifting until it became an immense, towering presence. Its fiery eyes burned brighter, illuminating the entire forest. "Your wish is granted," it hissed, its voice echoing like thunder, "but you will regret it." In the distance, Ria's figure began to stir. The glowing roots around him unraveled, and he fell to the ground, gasping for air. "Zainab," he whispered weakly. Zainab ran to him, tears streaming down her face. She helped him to his feet, relief flooding her heart. "You're safe now," she said softly. But her joy was short-lived. The Guardian's curse. The shadow let out a deafening roar, and the air around them grew colder. "I am free, but freedom demands balance," it said, its voice filled with malice. Before Zainab could react, the shadow's form dissolved into a swirling mist that surged toward her. She screamed as the darkness engulfed her, and then everything went silent. When Riaz opened his eyes, Zainab was gone. A new legend. Riaz stumbled back to the village. Dazed and heartbroken, he told the villagers everything: Shadow, the ritual, and Zainab's sacrifice. The villagers listened in stunned silence, their fear of the forest growing even deeper. Over time, a new legend emerged, the story of a young woman who had traded her soul to save her brother. Some said her spirit now roamed the forest, watching over those who entered, while others believed she had become part of the forest itself, forever guarding its secrets. Riaz, racked with guilt, never left Silent Hollow. Every night, he would sit at the edge of the forest, calling out to his sister, hoping to hear her voice in the whispers of the trees. But the forest remained silent, keeping its secrets hidden in the shadows of the night. Zainab's fate. Riaz struggled for days to come to terms with his sister's sacrifice. The pain of losing Zainab weighed heavily on him, and he spent sleepless nights haunted by memories of her courage. Every evening, he would sit on the edge of the forest, staring into its dark expanse, as if hoping for a sign that she was still there, somewhere. One night, under the glow of a full moon, the forest seemed different, quieter, almost inviting. The air carried a faint whisper, soft yet familiar. Riaz frowned. It was Zainab's voice, calling his name. Summoning his courage, he approached the forest, his heart pounding for the first time. The dense trees didn't feel hostile. Instead, the forest seemed to part, as if guiding him inward. Journey to the heart. Riaz followed the faint, glowing trail that appeared between the trees. The whispers grew louder, Zainab's voice urging him forward. He walked deeper than he ever had before, past the glowing symbols and twisted roots, until he reached the heart of the forest. There, he found a massive, ancient tree with glowing veins running through its bark. The air around it was heavy, almost sacred. At the base of the tree, Riaz saw something that made his breath catch a faint, glowing figure. It was Zainab, her form ethereal and intertwined with the tree's roots. The reunion. Zainab, Riaz called out, running toward her. Zainab's glowing figure turned to him, her expression calm but distant. "Riaz," she said softly, her voice carrying both love and sorrow. "You shouldn't have come here. I couldn't leave you.
He said, his voice breaking, "There has to be a way to bring you back." Zainab shook her head. "I am part of the forest now. My sacrifice keeps the guardian bound. If I leave, it will be free again, and the village will never be safe." Riaz fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "There has to be another way. I can't lose you again." Zainab knelt beside him, her glowing hand resting on his shoulder. "You must be strong, Riaz. Protect the village. Tell them to honor the forest, so this never happens again." A final goodbye. As the first rays of dawn broke through the trees, Zainab's form began to fade. "You have to go now," she said, her voice growing fainter. "The forest will protect those who respect it. But promise me, Riaz, live your life, and don't let my sacrifice be in vain." Before Riaz could say another word, Zainab disappeared into the tree, her light merging with its roots. The forest fell silent, the glowing trail fading behind him. A new legacy. Riaz returned to the village, his heart heavy yet determined. He shared Zainab's story and urged the villagers to respect the forest and its ancient guardian. Over time, the village changed. Rituals of honor were restored, and no one dared to exploit the forest again. Though Riaz never saw Zainab again, he felt her presence in the whispers of the trees and the glow of the forest at night. Her sacrifice became a legend, and her name was remembered as the protector of Silent Hollow. And so, the forest remained a place of mystery and power, guarded by the memory of a brave soul who gave everything to keep his secret safe.